The DA's demands expose their true intentions. They want labor laws to be scrapped so that employers can fire workers at will. They want black economic empowerment policies to be abandoned. They want to weaken institutions that have been established to reverse economic exclusion. These are the same policies that entrenched inequality and racial capitalism in the past, and the ANC will never allow such regression. Their opposition to the VAT increase is not about protecting the poor. It is about ensuring that economic policies serve corporate interests at the expense of working class South Africans. In their desperation, they seek to create an Israeli Gaza type situation using the Western Cape as their political salvo, a scenario in which African and colored people of the province will be treated as subhuman in the land of their birth. This is the reason behind their insistence on Cape Town's port being considered, an attempt to carve out an economic enclave where the interests of the privileged are protected at the expense of the majority. They further demanded changes to labor laws that will allow employers to fire workers at will without due process or legal recourse, effectively returning the country to the draconian conditions that allowed apartheid to thrive on the exploitation of black workers. We remain firm in our resolve to build an inclusive and prosperous economy that works for all South Africans. This budget proposal provides a framework for investment, industrialization, and economic transformation. Applied its mind, and that's what really is important to us. The budget will be passed working with everybody in government, and the ANC is prepared to talk and engage with all other political parties within the government of national unity and even beyond. And we have always been and we will always be open to talking to everybody. But talking to everybody does not mean that we are submissive. We look at the facts in terms of what people put on the table, and then we engage. Talking past each other in the media is not engagement. Let's deal with the facts of what people are talking about, including the alternatives of what they want. We have looked at what the DA talks about, which overall to us is blocking transformation. We have equally looked into the question of the budget itself in terms of the balance and what needed to be done other than VAT. For a moment, if we have to pause, we know that the DA would have accepted 0.5% increase if we backtracked on transformation legislation like Bella Act, Expropriation Act, NHI. And in this particular instance, we don't think that those are policy matters that you must use the budget to basically block transformation. And that's what is important. Two, if you talk about the fact that the 0% increase of the VAT affect the poor, in our manifesto even now, we know that this does not apply to basic essentials for the poor, like bread, fruits, milk, eggs, and maize. And you can call it more, that is your own thing. If we have to come, we've got to build infrastructure of highways, good infrastructure around country. But at the same time, we do not have the financial resources to do that, probably without broader engagement, and people boycott e-tolls. But even people who are not affected, those who are basically working class, like using taxis, buses and all of that, are actually part and parcel of the general strike against the e-tolls. But those who can afford, at the end of the day, their voices become voluminous to the point where in which even the poor and the working class are actually mobilized, and they believe that the e-tolls affect them negatively, when in the bigger scheme of things they did not. And we have passed on that. Now we are very clear that it is important to engage. 2% was high. Government have actually set 0.5 increase over a period of time, and this, depending on the response of the economy, will obviously over time diminish, and that's what it's important. Now we are ready to engage with everybody if they have alternatives. On the left, government had cut on the expenditure of cars. Ministers used to drive cars in the range of 1 million. It was cut to 500,000 and so on. Packs like credit cards were taken away probably 15 years ago, and they are not there. Flying arrangement, ministers are flying economy. That was cut as well from flying business locally, domestically. You only fly business international. They were cut from first class to business. Also, if you fly for 10 hours, your supporting staff in terms of numbers of international trips, where you find that departmental staff were flying up and down to different meetings, that was cut. Ministers only approve the most important trips internationally. In terms of household, ministers were not paying. Now, if you own 2 properties, Pretoria and Cape Town, you pay part of where you stay. So, these packs, people are making noise about ministers are on a gravy train and all of that. That's not the case. I was there, I saw it myself, and I was traveling economy when I was Minister of Transport. I didn't have a credit card, and the house I was staying in Cape Town was paid for. I didn't have a house in Pretoria. I was staying in my own property in Johannesburg. So this thing of gravy train, the car I was driving was less than 1 million in government that I was driving. Probably the R1 million car that I'm driving is in the ANC. That's where the gravy train is. But when I was minister in government, I didn't, except when I was Minister of Police. And equally, that was the police budget. But most ministers, they had to negotiate backwards because safety for people driving long distances and all of that with these government cars, doing government work, all those considerations. From the days of the late Tito Mboweni, when he was wearing those shoes, people did not understand. What did those shoes communicate? They were communicating one thing, that we're in a difficult period economically, and our expenditure in terms of government, particularly on things like those, we must not want to live, in a particular state, whereas we're saying everybody must sacrifice. Now, we're going to this VAT increase, which we will not be having it at all.